So Kid Kid was the latest member to join G-Unit. From New Orleans, Louisiana, Kid Kid was first known in the New Orleans group Squad Up in the early 2000s. He was also signed to Young Money, where most people heard him for the first time on the song Mrs. Officer on Lil Wayne's Carter 3 album in 2008. But after that, he left and he went on to do his own thing. The next major milestone for him was he rapped on a 50 Cent Freeway song called Bang Bang. The song then got some popularity and it fell on the ears of the one and only 50 Cent. 50 at first was going to contact Kid Kid to take down the song because he had used 50's vocals without his permission. But when 50 liked the song and got to talking to Kid Kid, he took a liking to him and didn't take any action. Not long after Kid Kid and 50 actually got cool, Kid Kid unfortunately got shot 6 times while sitting in a car outside his mother's house. The car was actually shot up 30 times, but Kid Kid only got hit 6 times, but luckily it wasn't a fatal shooting. According to the Louisiana rapper, 50 Cent was the second person to call him after he switched his phone back on. After that, they got real cool. Kid Kid also was on the 2015 XXL freshman class list, which a lot of people felt that was a bit weird because Kid Kid at the time was about 30, whereas most people on that list are in their early 20s and sometimes in their teens. Plus, Kid Kid had been around for several years. Like I said, it was on Lil Wayne's album in 2008. But while on G-Unit, Kid Kid featured on several 50 Cent projects such as The Big 10, Lost Tape, 5 Murder by Numbers, and Animal Ambition. All of those were mixtapes except for Animal Ambition. The best ones of those what I used to really like was The Big 10 and Lost Tape. If I was going to recommend a song for you to check out Kid Kid and 50 on one of those, it was definitely the song Schemin'. He also featured on the G-Unit EPs The Beast and Beauty of Independence. And this was the first time the whole of G-Unit, including Yayo, Banks, 50 and Buck, were on a project. Although these efforts didn't really command public attention like previous G-Unit efforts in the early 2000s. Other Kid Kid projects were the mixtapes F the Fame in 2008, From Nothing to Something 3 in 2011, New Kid on the Block 2012, F the Fame 2 2014, Rapper's Worst Nightmare 2 in 2015 as well. But despite being with G-Unit for a little while, his career didn't really move anywhere, so he left G-Unit in April 2018 and has spoken many times about his situation with G-Unit and even his previous situation with Lil Wayne, and he said there's no hard feelings, but he had to move for his own career. Since then he's had many interviews and still putting out music, but it seems like Kid Kid's career kind of is at a standstill. He's been around a long time and it seems like not many people are really checking for him like that. I personally like this style of rap. He definitely can rap, but there's something about him that's not catching on with the public. Now, Young Buck, who reps that Nashville, or as he calls it, Cashville, originally started with Cash Money in the late 90s. That's when he would meet 50 in the G-Unit, and that's when they got acquainted. But Buck was behind a lot of artists in Cash Money. That was around the time of the Hot Boys, Lil Wayne, Birdman, Juvenile. There was a lot of rappers ahead of him, so he wasn't getting the light that he wanted at the label. So he decided to break out of Cash Money, and he released a few mixtapes on the street, which didn't really do much at all. And at this point, G-Unit is blowing up in 2002, 2003. But just when G-Unit are doing their thing, Tony Yayo gets arrested. So what 50 does is he hollers out Buck to join G-Unit as a group, which he does. Obviously, after 50's album blows up, they do a G-Unit album, which Buck heavily features on. Later on in 2004, Young Buck drops his debut album Straight Outta Cashville, which has the breakout songs like Shorty Wanna Ride and Stomp. And the album got very good reviews, critically and commercially, going multi-platinum. On the G-Unit, Buck then released other albums such as Buck the World in 2007 until things went a bit left with him and 50. Buck was probably one of the rappers that had besides 50, had the most street cred. You know, he had a lot of beefs really inherited from 50 and the G-Unit, but he was always frontline dissing Ja Rule and Fat Joe when they had issues. And then there came the infamous assault on Dr. Dre at the Vibe Awards, where Young Buck allegedly stabbed somebody with a bread knife and was facing a lot of heavy charges, but I believe only got probation. That obviously heightened Young Buck's street cred, that he was a real one for backing up Dr. Dre and being front line with it. But yeah, Young Buck, G-Unit, they were riding high in that early 2000s, but then it started to go wrong for Young Buck. Around that time, 2006, a lot of the G-Unit was getting a lot of slack for singing and putting a lot of love songs, and even their sales started to show these types of resistance from the public. But Buck was one of those rappers that hadn't really met any flack. As Buck was coming out of his second album, Buck the World, in 2007, he was on promo run, and he was talking about a lot of stuff like how he hadn't really received a royalty check from being on G Unit, and that he was just talking a lot of big stuff like he was the cleanup man in hip-hop, G Unit. He was like one of the main guys in G Unit. I think a lot of times 50 Cent got a bit offended by a lot of stuff Buck was saying, particularly the claim that he hadn't been paid royalty checks. But it all came to a head when 50 Cent released a recorded conversation between him and Young Buck, where Young Buck was speaking on how much debt he was in and apologizing to 50 for what he's been saying, and eventually he actually started crying on the phone. It was kind of shocking in hip-hop that 50 would do this to his own artist and his own supposed friend, and it obviously had a real effect on Buck's street cred as a gangster rapper. Crying on the phone over money is not the coolest thing. This resulted in Young Buck taking aim at 50, released a couple mixtapes dissing him, Tape Conversation, which actually was a good record. But yeah, he dissed him, started doing songs with The Game, dissing 50. And obviously for your 50, this was a big no-no. So Buck was pretty much put on hold, thrown out of the group G Unit. And basically it was a whole bunch of 50 not putting out any more music for Young Buck and putting his career on hold. Years later, after interviews and songs being aimed at each other from 50 and Buck, G Unit got back together. They were doing freestyles with Flex at Hot 97. They were doing little songs together, doing mixtapes, a couple of EPs that Buck was involved with, and it looked like they were coming back together for real. The EPs didn't actually get great reception, but I personally liked them, especially the Beauty of Independence one. But as G Unit were coming back together, things were going slowly, but Buck had a bit more controversy as there was video released online with him supposedly having an affair with a transsexual. Immediately, Buck denied it, saying that it was a catfish situation and really going on quite a tirade online that how it wasn't true. But 50, being 50, didn't waste any time. He went online mocking Young Buck, calling him all sorts of names on his Instagram, which obviously didn't go down well with Young Buck. Ever since then, 50 and Buck have had a very toxic relationship, dissing each other online, even gone down the legal route as Buck was always complaining that 50's holding up his career and still owes him money. 50 obviously was saying that Buck owes him money, and it got to the point that Buck allegedly had to be selling some of his property and memorabilia and his masters just to pay 50 back. Not sure where that's gone, but that was a rumor a few months ago. But Young Buck definitely was one of my favorite rappers. He still releases music, he stays busy and puts out really good music. One thing you can't say about Young Buck is that he can't rap. He probably was one of the best, and at one point one of my favorite rappers in G Unit. His classic obviously is his first album, straight out of Cashville, and he has a bunch of classic G Unit songs and a whole bunch of classic features. Don't forget the song he did with 3 6 Mafia. And even recently he had an altercation with Afroman's affiliate where he got in a physical altercation. But Young Buck just seems to be one of these rappers that stays in controversy. It can never really be smooth sailing for Young Buck. I don't know what it is. There is talk that he has substance issues, but that's all allegedly.